So this is a big one, but what is the role that government plays in society? So there's three important roles that the government plays, and then we're going to provide an example of each. So the first one is to improve the economic welfare of its citizens. So it tends to do this. So it tends to do this using monetary policy, which is the central bank of the United States. So it's the Fed, or the Federal Reserve, affecting interest rates and the money supply to do things like promote economic growth, or to make sure that the economy is not overheating in terms of inflation. So helps to keep inflation in check and maximize employment. Those are the two main ones. And we've also got fiscal policy that the government will undertake as well. Fiscal policy is spending and taxing. Okay, so you can talk about like a real world example here. Something like for fiscal policy, you can talk about building roads, like improving the roads to make it easier for citizens in a country to get to work, to and from work, or to trade, or have trucks that can travel across the country. So something like building the interstate system and improving the interstate system to make it navigable. That would be an example there of improving the economic welfare of citizens by using government spending. Okay, so the government also wants to limit opportunistic behavior. So this is companies taking advantage of maybe a lack of knowledge that consumers have. So you could have, let's say, a company that makes cereal. Okay, so they make Fruity O's or something, I don't know, some kind of cereal. And what they're doing is they are using very low cost toxic ingredients. Well, that's bad. That is, them just trying to pull one over on consumers, and they're just really good at marketing. People still really want to buy it. Maybe it tastes delicious, and people get addicted to it. Maybe it's toxic and addictive in these Fruity O's cereals. Well, you have like the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA. The FDA might have regulations to prevent the use of toxic ingredients in food. So you cannot use toxic ingredients. I don't care how low cost it is. This is not allowed. So that would be the FDA trying to limit opportunistic behavior. Okay, and then number 3 here is that the government modifies or replaces markets. Modifies or replaces some markets, not all markets. And an example here, really, good example, is in the late 1800s, there were large monopolies, not like the board game, kind of based on the board game, or really the board game was based on these large monopolies. But late 1800s, there were large monopolies, and you don't really need to know this specifically, but the Sherman Antitrust Act broke up these monopolies, and that is what modified them. Broke up these monopolies for consumer benefit. That's a good example there. So modifying or replacing certain markets that maybe would not function on their own. So I always like to think about the military as like another market that probably would not function, or not really function in its current form if it was just all private. So only it doesn't really make sense. Maybe like only rich people in the middle of Nebraska would, be able to, like if you were just rich but you lived in Nebraska, you'd have to pay the government to protect you. But then people who were next door to you would not be protected potentially from, foreign invasion. It just doesn't quite add up. So, something like the military, maybe is a market that would not really exist in a private form. So there you go. That is this question. Make sure that you ask if you have any questions on how to approach that. But review your notes there for sure on, what are the three kind of major roles that the government plays. Definitely an important one that likes to pop up.